Hello out there, Dan here with Fowl Play. In our last video we talked about the importance of this pen, this chicken care pen, the chicken emergency room. One thing we try to do on this channel is share with you our ups and our downs and our victories and our defeats and our challenges. This is little Miss Sophie. I briefly mentioned in the last video that she was really struggling. Let's talk about that. That's my good girl. I'm going to zoom in on her feathers just a little bit. Over the last number of weeks, we've really watched Sophie lose her feathers. In fact, if you look at it, it's somewhat in a comical way. She's kind of like that little Christmas tree out of Charlie Brown, when everywhere they carry the little pine needles will just fall off of the little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And that's the way Sophie has been lately. Just everywhere she goes, the feathers just fall off of her. We've been really stumped as to maybe why she's losing her feathers so heavily. And we can't find any disease process that's affecting the rest of the flock. We can't find any mites and bugs and ticks or anything like that. This could very well be a very natural process that many birds go through. It's called a molt. And anything that we've researched so far indicates that maybe Sophie is going through a hard molt, and that would explain why her feather loss. Now, one of the reasons why I isolated her in this case, I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to get a little bit closer. I'm not going to really touch her because she crawled in my lap this morning and she just seems so tender. Now, this is an example of her wing feathers. Now, you probably can't see it that well on the video, but these feathers are blood feathers. If one of the other hens were to pick on her and pull one of those blood feathers, she really could theoretically bleed out. So with her having that kind of exposure to her blood supply, to her feathers, we really thought it was in her best interest to get her into the pen and get her isolated. We won't leave her alone all night. In fact, I've had Clementine in here with her for a good part of the day, so she's not alone. The other thing we're looking at here with Sophie is she's eating well, she's drinking well, her poo looks normal, she's active, and she doesn't seem to be lethargic or any of those other overt signs that she's got an illness going on. But we don't know for sure why she's struggling so much with her feather loss. There's many times where these birds go through molts, heavy molts, and chicken folks like us think that maybe there's a serious illness and maybe she ate something toxic. There, she turned around, you can see kind of the other side of her blood feathers on this side. When she crawled up in my lap this morning, she went for snuggles, but I touched her in a couple different places, where on the back of her back and her wing, and she kind of yelped a little bit. So it just really makes me feel like that she's feeling really, really tender. At this point, we don't feel like she has, you know, something we can address, like an infection or some type of intervention where we would take her and get an x-ray. Did she get something toxic potentially? Does she have a tumor or something? That could very well be. At this point, we have been watching her, and we hate to take her away from the rest of the flock. But whatever our poor girl has got going on, she's really struggling, and we hate to put her in isolation because she's just so dear to us, and at the same time, we don't want her to potentially be harmed by one of the other chickens if they see that open area on their wings and their feathers. They're potentially for pecking and picking on by the other birds, especially Brastra. So we're going to keep Miss Soap isolated for a little while, maybe for a few days, and just watch her. And like I said, she's eating and drinking okay, but boy, the poor girl just looks so ragged, and we love her so much. And we want what's best for her if we can. So we're going to keep taking care of it the best we can. And this is just a part of the channel here where we show you our ups and our downs. And this is kind of a down, and we're hoping this is fairly benign, as we try to look at it just through nurse's eyes, since we're both nurses, Mrs. Fowl and I. We feel like it's hard to translate what's going on in chicken world into human world and try to apply one to the other. But at the same time, we can't really look at her and say, gosh, what is going on with our poor girl? So we'll just take some measures to watch her close, and we'll get Buffy in here with her tonight so she doesn't have to roost alone. Chickens are flock animals and they need their buddies. But at the same time, we want to protect her. So this is our poor Soph. We don't know what's going on, but we're going to just keep doing what we can for her to support her care and give her some love. She's our sweet girl. And I'm sorry you're going through that, little sweetie. You're my sweet girl.